Hey parents, a quick note before we start today's story. Every month, Animal Stories for Kids podcast will still bring you 2 free regular episodes to enjoy with your kids. But if your child loves following our animals in alphabetical order and is always asking for more, I've created a special subscriber tier just for your family. When you subscribe through Supercast, you'll get an extra episode every month, plus early access to new stories before they're released on the main feed. It's a simple way to support the show's growth and keep your little animal lover stocked with calm, screen-free stories. You can find the link to subscribe in the show notes. Now let's settle in. Today's animal adventure is about to begin. Welcome to Animal Stories for Kids. If you like our stories, please give us a 5-star rating, subscribe to our podcast, and share it with your friends and family. And now, it's time for our story. Once upon a time, there was a bearded vulture named Mavis. Mavis the bearded vulture lived on a rocky cliff ledge high in the mountains, where wind rushed cold and constant over stones, and the smell of snow lingered even in summer. And she spent her mornings watching the older vultures soar, and her afternoons cracking open the pieces of bone her parents brought to her nest. She was good at cracking bones. She liked the way they split under the pressure of her beak, revealing the rich marrow inside. And she liked sitting on the edge of the nest, her dark brown feathers ruffling in the wind, watching the world below. Mavis the bearded vulture watched the adults every day. She watched them circle high above the ossuaries, or the area with old animal bones. She would watch them with bones clutched in their talons. She watched them calculate and release them. And she watched the bones fall, spinning through the air, and shatter against a rock perfectly. It looked incredible. The older vultures made it seem effortless, their white and gold feathers gleaming in the sun as they soared away to find another bone. She knew that one day she'd have to learn this skill, but not yet, not today. But one morning, Mavis the bearded vulture woke up and stretched her wings and caught sight of her reflection in a pool of snowmelt near the nest. She froze. There, along her neck, were 3 small white feathers, where yesterday there had been only brown. Her mother landed beside her, a bone fragment in her talons. "You're changing, Mavis," she said gently. "Soon you'll be ready to learn the drop." Mavis felt her stomach tighten. "How long does it take?" she asked, even though she already knew the answer. 7 years, her mother said. "Maybe more, maybe less, but you'll learn." 7 years. Mavis the bearded vulture looked down at the ossuary far below. There was a tiny flat stone in a sea of rocks, and she thought about how many times she'd have to fail before she got it right. Hundreds of drops? Thousands, maybe. 7 years of watching bones bounce and tumble and miss? 7 years of not being good enough yet? The thought made her wings feel heavy. Mavis decided to try anyway. She found the smallest bone fragment in the nest, a piece no bigger than her talon, and carried it to a low ledge a little bit above the ossuary. She hovered there, wings beating against the wind, trying to remember how the adults did it, trying to feel the exact right moment. She released the bone. It fell. It bounced off the edge of the ossuary. It rolled across the rock. It tumbled down the slope, bounced twice more, spun in a little circle, and disappeared into a crevice between 2 boulders. Mavis the bearded vulture landed on the ossuary and stared at the spot where the bone had vanished. A raven perched on the nearby rock and tilted its head at her. "First try?" it asked. Mavis nodded. "You'll get it in a Oh, 7 or maybe 8 years, the raven said cheerfully, and flew away. Mavis the bearded vulture slumped against a rock. 7 or 8 years? She couldn't even imagine being that old. She flew back to her ledge and spent the next few days watching the adults. Mavis the bearded vulture studied them from dawn until dusk. She watched how they circled, how they tilted their wings to read the wind, how they released the bones at just the right angle. She watched them shatter bones the size of her whole body, bones that exploded into fragments with a crack that echoed across the valley. And every time she watched, she felt smaller. She looked down at her own wings and saw more white feathers coming in. A whole patch now, spreading. She was changing whether she wanted to or not. One evening, a young griffin vulture landed beside her on the ledge. It was learning to hunt, diving for small animals in the meadows below. "Doesn't it scare you?" Mavis the bearded vulture asked quietly. "Growing up?" The griffin vulture shrugged and said, "I just do what I can today." But Mavis couldn't stop thinking about all the tomorrows stretching ahead. Hundreds of drops, thousands of failures, years and years of not being good enough yet. She felt a loneliness settle into her chest, the kind that comes from knowing you're going somewhere you don't really feel ready to go. She thought to herself, "I don't want this. I don't want to spend 7 years failing." Mavis the bearded vulture flew to the highest ledge on the cliff, the ones where the adults launched from. The wind here was fierce and cold, and the ossuary below looked impossibly small. She looked out over the mountains, endless peaks and valleys, the sky so wide it made her almost dizzy. She thought about the 7 years ahead. She thought about how much she would change. Her feathers going white, her body growing larger, her childhood disappearing behind her like a shadow. And she realized she couldn't do it. She didn't want to grow up. She didn't want to spend 7 years failing. She didn't want to become someone she didn't recognize yet. Mavis sat down on the ledge and tucked her wings tight against her body. The wind rushed over her, cold and indifferent. The world didn't stop. The sun still moved across the sky, casting long shadows across the valley. "I'll just stay here," she whispered to herself. "I won't grow up. I'll stay like this forever." And she sat there, perfectly still, as if stopping her body would stop time itself. But just then, an older vulture landed beside her, with a bone clutched in its talons. Mavis recognized it, a vulture with mostly white feathers, an adult who dropped bones every single day with perfect aim. The vulture launched without a word, circled once, twice, and released the bone. It fell. It missed a flat rock by a lot, clattering uselessly against the rocks. The vulture landed, picked up the bone, and flew again. This time, the bone hit the edge of the ossuary, but it didn't break. It just rolled off and tumbled down the slope. The vulture landed again beside Mavis the bearded vulture, calm and unhurried. "Still practicing," it said, and there was no shame in its voice, only patience. Mavis stared and said, "But you're grown up. You're supposed to know how." The vulture looked at her with kind, dark eyes. "I'm still learning. I'll always be learning. That's what growing up is." Mavis the bearded vulture felt something move inside of her, A tightness was loosening. She looked at the vulture's white feathers, at the scars on its talons from years of carrying bones. She realized that the adults weren't finished. They weren't perfect. They were just further along the same long road she was standing at the beginning of. She thought to herself, "They're still trying. They're still missing. They're still learning." And for the first time, growing up didn't feel like a wall she had to climb. It felt like a path she could walk. Mavis picked up a bone, a small one, the kind she could carry, and flew to the low ledge again. Her heart beat fast in her chest. She didn't feel ready. She didn't feel brave. But she hovered above the ossuary and released the bone away. It missed. She landed, picked it up, and tried again. It missed again, but this time she noticed it landed closer, just a little bit, just enough. She looked up at the sky and thought about all the years ahead. 7 years, maybe more. And for the first time, it didn't feel like a prison. It felt like time. Time to learn. Time to fail. Time to try again. And she thought to herself, "I don't have to be ready. I just have to try." From that day on, Mavis practiced her drops every day. And some days she missed. And on some days, she got closer. And her feathers kept turning white, whether she was ready or not. But she learned that growing up wasn't a single moment of readiness. It was a long journey, taken one drop at a time. And the sky was patient with her. And she was learning to be patient with herself. And the bearded vulture lived happily ever after. The end. Bearded vultures are large birds of prey, also called Lammergeiers, which means lamb vultures in German. Their scientific name is Gepidas barbatus, which refers to the black feathers under their beak that looks like a beard. These birds have wingspans that can reach almost 10 feet, making them one of the largest vultures in the world. Unlike other vultures, bearded vultures have feathered heads and necks instead of bald ones. Their bodies are covered in white and golden orange feathers. The orange color doesn't come from their natural feathers. It comes from dust bathing in iron-rich soil, which stains their white feathers rust-colored. Young bearded vultures have dark brown feathers that gradually turn white as they mature over several years. Bearded vultures live in mountainous regions across parts of southern Europe, Africa, and Asia. They nest on cliff ledges at high elevations, often above the tree line where the air is thin and cold. They prefer steep, rocky terrain with deep valleys and open spaces for soaring. These vultures have a very unusual diet. They eat almost entirely bones, making them one of the only animals in the world to do so. Their stomach acid is incredibly strong and can dissolve bone marrow and even small pieces of bone. When bones are too large to swallow, bearded vultures carry them high into the air and drop them onto flat rocks to shatter them into smaller, edible pieces. This behavior is learned, not instinctive, or not natural. And young vultures must practice for many years, sometimes up to 7 years or more, before they master the skill of dropping bones with accurate aim. Bearded vultures are mostly silent birds, but they sometimes make whistling or hissing sounds. They spend most of their day soaring on thermal air currents, or areas where warm air rises faster than cool air because it's less dense, using their excellent eyesight to spot dead animals and bones left behind by other predators. Bearded vultures will sometimes rub red soil and clay into their feathers on purpose, almost like they're putting on makeup. Scientists believe they do this to signal their status to other vultures. The brighter the orange, the healthier and more dominant the bird. It's one of the only known examples of a wild bird intentionally decorating itself. Have you seen a real-life bearded vulture before? If you have, where did you see it? Thanks for listening to Animal Stories for Kids. If you like our stories, please give us a 5-star rating, subscribe to our podcast, and share it with your friends and family. Until next time, bye! If your child loves imaginative stories, I'd love to share my picture book, What Else Should I Eat? It's about a girl who's hungry and goes on a whimsical journey through a magical land of food, trying different kinds of food and exploring how they look, taste, feel, and smell. It's a fun way to show kids that eating different kinds of food can be exciting. The book is perfect for ages 3 to 6, and older kids enjoy it too. You can find What Else Should I Eat? On Amazon and other online bookstores. Find all the details in the show notes.